Welcome to another rendition of Score Talk, where we discuss gems in the world of film music. I'm Zed Burrows, coming to you from desolate New York City.
Desolate? Lol.
Desolate New York City.
I think we're all in the same situation. I'm Maria Amstanler, coming to you from London, where it's pretty quiet here as well. It's a bit of a dead town.
And I'm Gergely, and I'm calling in from Budapest, where I think the weather is sunny, but I don't see any people outside. Though I usually don't see any people outside, so I'm lucky. I'm isolated.
Nice.
So yeah, I only have one window in my room, and it's to the backyard. It's to the courtyard. So no, I don't see any people outside as well. And so this has been a really bit of a crazy month and a half or so, almost 2 months, and with everything being virtually shut down, including the movie theaters, there's nothing. I mean, I've been trying to catch some new releases. I think. So let me ask you guys a question. What was the last movie that you caught in theaters before the quarantine?
For me, it was 1917.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a cinema goer, so I don't think even I recall. Maybe I think it's like 5 years ago, maybe something like there was that Liam Neeson movie, The Tombstones. I think that was a
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
And we didn't want to watch it. We went there for something else, and it wasn't actually showing that day. So, who do you trust, Liam Neeson?
For me, it was Onward. I caught it just before New York went into lockdown. It's now on Disney Plus. For those of us who are paying a Disney Plus subscription, it was okay. I didn't. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh my God, Pixar masterpiece." It's fine. I don't think it's as good as Up or Ratatouille.
Ratatouille, yeah.
Yeah, but that's just me. Okay, but we hope that you are all comfortable and keeping safe and keeping healthy. And this is a really hard time for everybody, but we hope that you are all finding time not only to write and be creative, but to also just keep yourselves comfortable and watch the things that make you feel good, that make you feel comfortable and secure and sweet and bubbly in this crazy time. And so with this list of the 5 scores that make us feel that we look to for comfort, I am restricting myself to only one Disney musical. So, because otherwise this list would have been filled.
I know what that's going to be.
Do you?
It's got to be Aladdin.
No.
Really?
Aladdin's got some scary stuff in there.
Wait, so that's the thing. Like, I think everybody's interpretation of comforting is going to be a little different. For me, comforting is not necessarily, it's a mellow, peaceful kind of score. For me, I would say what makes me feel comfortable and at peace or serene is something that kind of takes me back to my childhood, something that's quite nostalgic. So yeah, my list might be a little bit different to yours, but I didn't really make a list per se, but let's see how we get on. So what's your Disney score? I'm really curious.
Well, Gergely, let's start. I'm curious about your criterion.
I think now I had absolutely no idea what to do here. I mean, I never turn to music for comfort. For me, it's working equipment. So I was like, until about 10 seconds ago, I had no idea what to talk about, and maybe I will latch on to Miriam's definition to maybe think about stuff that I saw as a child. And I just share 5 comforting tales of various nature, because for me music never gives that. Absolutely, I'm just going to, oh yeah, this is where they messed up the editing. So I'm too analytical for that. It's not, I don't feel that. So.
All right, and we were also going to talk a little bit about ice cream.
Yeah.
So
you remember?
We could talk about ice cream also.
I'm actually not much of an ice cream fan. I don't think I'll have much to contribute in this area, but Gergely seems to know his ice creams pretty well.
Yeah, that's my comfort food.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But in a way, like full boxes at one time. So.
I'll think about comfort food during this. So Miriam, why don't you go first?
So for me, I think it's probably important to note that I'm not listening to film scores much anymore. Like, I'm taking advice from John Powell, and I'm removing myself from film scores so that I can try and find inspiration in something a bit different. But if I were to put on a film score that would kind of just take me back a bit, and just something that I'm so familiar with, and I know exactly what's coming next, and there's something very comforting in that, would probably be something from Harry Gregson Williams, and I would probably go to Narnia, Chronicles of Narnia, the first one. I love that score. I'm so familiar with it. There's something takes me back to very specific moments as I was already an older teenager when that movie came out, but it was one of the first scores I bought. Yeah, that's one of my top.
I remember we dedicated an entire episode to talking about Narnia.
We did.
And I remember it was fun to revisit and all. I still don't know if I like the movie very much, just because I just think a lot of it just drags here and there. But no, it's certainly a fun score. I think I mentioned that I really like the early string parts where they're still in London. I know some people were really down against those. I remember you telling me that. But when they're saying goodbye to the mother and stuff, I think he does those nostalgic-y kind of strings really well.
Well, it's not about necessarily the content of the score. There's just a sense of familiarity with it that I don't know. I guess I like things to not be unpredictable. I like to listen to something that I know, and I know what's coming next, and I don't know. It's just it takes me back to that time.
Fair enough. All right, so I guess if there's Gerge, any comments on Narnia?
Absolutely nothing. The only thing is like how, in the mid 2000s, how studios, after Narnia was kind of a success, they were like, okay, what other movies have giant talking animals in it? And suddenly the Golden Compass was made. So
oh yeah,
this cannot be a coincidence.
Probably not.
I don't know if I was maybe too. I remember the old Narnia, the TV series, the 6-part miniseries, which was in 1988. That one I remember seeing. This modern, it's like it just reached me at too cynical of an age to have any connection to that.
Right.
All right. So for my list, I didn't necessarily go with things that I saw as a child, although a couple of them I saw. Some of them I didn't see until I was an adult. But these are ones from movies that are generally just when I want the most wholesome things, and these can range from Disney musicals to sentimental dramas here and there. I'm gonna go with my earliest pick. This is my Disney musical from 1964, Mary Poppins. And it's kind of cheating a little bit to put, maybe it's not cheating to put a Disney on here, but the songs, first of all, the songs are so catchy and they're so memorable, and the way that they're weaved throughout the underscore, it kind of set the template for what Alan Menken would do later. But when I want comfort food, and nearly every single song in Mary Poppins is just so fun and so marvelous. And I just can't think of any other ways that it's just really insanely good comfort food. And anything from Spoonful of Sugar to Jolly Holiday, and the movie itself is just so nostalgic and so beautiful and such a masterpiece. And few things make me cry harder than Feed the Birds. So,
really?
No. Oh, well, how can you not cry during Feed the Birds? It's just
honestly, Zev, the last time I saw that Mary Poppins, I have no idea. I haven't seen it for a really long time. I should go back and watch it.
This is the perfect time to watch Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
I think I will make my Disney pick now then. I mean, there's this kind of stereotype that because I love film music, I love musicals. I don't. I really don't. And one of the reasons for that is that, technically nowadays when, Disney releases any kind of movie abroad, they demand that the songs should be translated alongside the text, because how do you feel when little children watch a movie and suddenly everybody starts jumping and starts to speak gibberish because we don't and I remember those days when that wasn't the case, including Mary Poppins, which had beautiful Hungarian dub, and for some reason some of the song stuff, they start talking in a language I don't comprehend, and I was like, bored by it. Like, how does this contribute to anything? So I have this kind of feeling, and the pick I would do, my favorite Disney musical from the golden age of the 1990s would be Aladdin, and not just because Miriam mentioned it, but because this is the one I remember seeing in cinemas, like with the whole family on around Christmas, maybe second or third day of Christmas or something like that. And I don't remember the songs, which is a good thing because I just remember how much fun I had. And I think Aladdin was bigger in Hungary than for a while. Lion King was very big, but Aladdin had the TV show, which was huge in.
Oh yeah.
So it in Hungary, we only had one TV channel, and every Saturday, Sunday afternoon, they would play. This would be the cartoon that you saw that week. So that was a pretty big deal. I know by that point it came out. There was maybe early Cartoon Network or stuff like that. But the Disney Hour, which we had in the 1990s, was such a defining feature. And for a good 1 year, it was just the Aladdin stuff in it. So
right.
So I'm still have something which you could consider nostalgia for this brand, not the live action stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. If I had to pick a Disney film, I don't have a particular reason for it, other than that I just think I like this one the most. It would be The Little Mermaid. Just remember that watching that movie over and over as a kid.
Mermaid's definitely good comfort food. And Aladdin is too.
Especially when grilled, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you haven't checked out our Aladdin episode, please do. So Miriam, your next pick.
Well, I just told you about Little Mermaid, but let me think, because I really had to think about this, because I like Gerke said, I don't necessarily put on film scores or music in general to comfort me. And like I said, I'm not listening to film scores so much these days anymore, just for the sake of it. But another one that I come back to regularly, and this one is a Hans Zimmer score. If I want to listen again to something familiar and a movie that I've seen probably two more times than I should admit, is Pearl Harbor. Really love the lush strings in Pearl Harbor. It's very sentimental. I would definitely put that on if I wanted to get into that kind of a mood. That and possibly Rain Man as well. I love his score to Rain Man. That nice 80s vibe, which I was just about alive during that time, but I remember watching that film when I was a teenager and really loving that music and those pan flutes or pan pipes, whatever they're called. So there, I've given you a whole lot. Yeah, what do you think of the Pearl Harbor score?
I haven't seen Pearl Harbor, so
oh, really?
I kind of try to actively avoid Michael Bay if I can.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, well.
Okay, I think I get that coming from you.
Well, I to date, the third Transformers is the only movie I've ever walked out of halfway through.
Oh, really?
and maybe I shouldn't have said that on the air, but
I've actually never seen them.
So two of them, no?
I've only seen the first one and then half of the third one. Everyone says that Revenge of the Fallen, which I think is the second, is actively the worst one, but I have been lucky to have been spared that. So,
but also I find this really hard to choose, because generally speaking, I like specific cues from specific scores, and I tend to buy the whole score regardless of whether or not I like the whole score, because I'm a bit OCD like that. I can't just have, one track or two tracks from a score.
Right.
So, there'll be cues here and there from a John Williams score or someone else that are just so gorgeous. What's that score by John Williams? Tibet.
7 years in Tibet.
7 years in Tibet. Some of that music is just glorious to listen to feel a bit, So it's very general here. I'm speaking very generally.
Okay. All right. I'll go to my next one, and I'm going to go in chronological order. So my next one comes in the 1980s, and so before I went down the route of serious musician, quote unquote serious musician, I wanted to be a baseball player, and I spent years playing little league. I was,
I know what he's going to say next.
I made the all-star team once or twice, and but around the time of high school, I found that I was completely terrible at baseball by then because I hadn't played in years. So I mean, I did the requisite, couple of semesters of sports, just just being on the baseball team before I went to college. But I didn't see this movie until college, and to me, no movie encapsulates the pure fantasy and the pure nostalgia feeling of baseball better than The Natural from 1984, and surprise, surprise, that Randy Newman score is it's so lush and it's so beautiful. And he said in interviews, a beautiful movie like that because it's gorgeously shot. I remember there's one scene in particular early on where they had to shoot at a very particular time of afternoon so that Caleb Deschanel, the cinematographer, could get the right amount of sunlight required for the scene. And you just see that coming from the movie, and you hear it coming from Newman's music, whether it's the sad trumpets of Americana, or it's those really, really lush strings, or the lovely wind-led cues, and even the big ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum gives me comfort here and there, because that's just
so Copeland-esque.
It's extraordinarily Copeland-esque, and it's what made me fall in love with the Copeland style,
right?
Actually. So.
For sure.
Yeah, any comments on The Natural?
Well, for me, all of these American sports movies are a bit like if you watch a foreign movie without subtitles. So even if the themes are universal, there are things I'm not going to get. Like, why would people watch this? Like the sport, not the film. And then I could think of what are the themes of this film, and I would pick something that doesn't have baseball in it. So I mean, the baseball films I kind of understand, are the ones where I don't have to understand the game, because I can't emphasize how much I and I think a lot of European people just don't get the American sports like football and baseball. So if a film truly transcends that barricade, I think it's it's a rare. What I like is Cobb, because it's not about baseball but about a very weird character who's just famous because of baseball. So unfortunately for baseball, I can't add anything much smarter than that. And let me just think. I think what Miriam said about Pearl Harbor is like, I'm going to rake my brain for one of those Hans Zimmer action movies, and I think the one I watched the most is maybe Broken Arrow, because it's not that overexposed as The Rock or Crimson Tide. I think, if that one became the favorite of temp track editors, we'd be living in a better universe. It's a truly thing that it's just, and the movie is like, it's not good in the traditional sense of the word. It just has its own rules, and as long as you accept those rules, it's one of the greatest things ever achieved with camera. So it's just, John Travolta hamming it up. Lots of the almost wall-to-wall underscoring, and this is a music I listened to a lot when I was going to university, and there was whenever I went home for the weekend, this is something I knew. It's about, the complete score was about 97 minutes, which was almost completely take up the road from door to door. So I would, it was also a great way of keeping time. This was something so basically, almost when I was going home every weekend, I would listen to it twice every weekend, because it would be just, to home and away from home. So this is something, if I have to put something from the Hans Zimmer head, I would pick Broken Arrow. Then I never Pearl Harbor. It's just, with Pearl Harbor, for me, it's a bit like Titanic done badly. Like, it has the romance stuff, which I just excruciating long, but it's awesome, but very short. So it's like, I think it's almost like real time. It was meant to be almost in real time. The attack itself, and I want more of that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because even though the score at certain parts is extremely romantic, and it's beautiful, Attack is actually my favorite cue from that
and,
score.
and that was redone because the original cue they did was like bonkers, like
Yeah.
completely out of place of everything. And I love that cue, the original version they did for the attack, and then they they made it a bit more, how should I say, producer friendly or studio friendly, but the
Right.
original one is just like insane. Like, how did they think they would get away with it? And they didn't. So that was the best part for me.
Yeah.
All right, Miriam. Your next one.
I'm gonna say here, and I should have mentioned it at the start. Pretty much anything by Thomas Newman
Oh Jesus.
will take will take like multiple spots here. I mean, some of my favorites from Thomas Newman include Revolutionary Road. Love it. Well, again, on certain parts, because there's certain like quite aggressive, not aggressive, but like tense parts of the score that I actually never really listened to. But I love the opening cue, that piano and those drop voicings that he does, gorgeous. Of course, Shawshank and American Beauty and Road to Perdition, and there are some beautiful cues in Angels of America. So again, like I just love those lush strings that he's so good at, his signature. Come on, Zev, you're also a massive fan of Thomas Newman.
Right, I had to limit myself to only one,
Well,
and
yeah,
I'll have that one coming up after my number 3 pick, but we're still on yours.
Well, I'm not picking one in particular here. I will, if I need to.
So we'll just go with Thomas. We'll just go with.
I'm happy to listen to anything, pretty much anything by Thomas Newman.
We'll just go on Tom Newman generally.
Oh yeah, totally. I would
All right.
recommend that to anybody who wishes to just sit back and relax for a little while.
Got it.
Totes.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little more about Tom Newman in a little bit, but again, my next one. Sorry, Gergely, this is another sports score. I don't know why sports scores do this to me, but
wait. Let me guess. Rudy.
Jesus Christ.
I knew one of you is going to pick Rudy. I was just not sure who. But now, when it's a sports score, he's going to pick Rudy.
I mean.
Sorry.
I couldn't pick Hoosiers just because I haven't seen Hoosiers enough times, and that's also a little more of an aggressive piece, I think, than Rudy. Rudy's just it's just such a wholesome score. Again, those Copland feelings, and I mean,
Sorry, excuse my ignorance here, but who wrote the score? Because I'm not familiar with
Jerry Goldsmith.
Ah, okay, of course.
It's and generally I wouldn't go with Jerry Goldsmith, because if I wanted to put Goldsmith, we turn to Goldsmith mostly for his more innovative, action or tension type of stuff, like Total Recall or Basic Instinct. Mm-hmm. But he loved writing this very, very lush Americana sound as well. And I think, and this is probably, there's some cues in Wind and the Lion that have some really nice Americana qualities as well. But this one, I think it's a further extension down that route. There's some, when I was actually studying the main Rudy theme, he doesn't use, and this is going to get a little music theory. I was studying it, the main theme. So forgetting about the chords for a minute, just talking about the melody, it uses, I think, almost every single note in the major scale except the fourth. It does not use the fourth in the major scale, which I found really interesting. And the melody just works so well. So that's my little bit of music theory fanboy Jerry Goldsmith here and there. But no, I mean, and this music, there are some cues that just played in every single trailer known to man. You would have, they were played in Angels in the Outfield, they were played in Good Will Hunting, they were played in, remember that DreamWorks movie Spirit with the horses? That they played in that trailer. And I think, it's not anymore, just because trailers are vastly different now. But Rudy is just such a wholesome piece. I cannot not respond to that. So, Miriam, have you seen this movie?
No, I haven't. That's why I asked about who composed it. But
okay.
I mean, you've given me a list so long of movies to watch that. Yeah.
So,
football.
Just-
But I'm going to give you one Goldsmith trivia here is that, in later parts of his career, Goldsmith did do a lot of action movies, which, paid the bill, but I'm not sure how much he enjoyed that. He loved Rudy. And you can
Yes.
literally hear it because at 3 minutes, 4 seconds into the end credits piece, you can accidentally hear him humming into his conductor microphone. So you can actually hear a piece of him humming, and he notices and he stops it, but it's just there. I don't know if they caught it because it's still in the film, it's still on the CD. So you can hear a bit of humming, which is quite accidental, but he loved it. He just loved this.
Mhm.
And I think some presidents also love it because I understand it was used by several presidents over various stops, campaign events, and whatever. So,
Right.
so it definitely has a bit of magic to it.
Right.
I'll have to-
I'm gonna have
when-
to listen to this.
Next time I listen to that main theme, I'll have to check it out.
Will,
But
I, will I enjoy listening to it on its own, or do I have to watch the movie?
No, I think you will. I think it works extremely well as music on its own. It's one of my all-time favorites. I think it's my second favorite from Jerry.
Right.
But Gege, were you gonna pick a Jerry for your list?
I
Or?
mean, now I'm gonna, now that I'm just quickly running down the list. Like, what is something that I actually, just the list is a bit long, so allow me to scroll a bit. but I think I will go with something a bit more on the fun side. And in that case, something that I see, so as a child, when we had HBO, a lot of these were there. Like, I remember seeing Mr. Baseball. I remember Dennis the Menace, Melly, all the early 90s stuff. Oh, I'm going to pick Matinee, I think. I mean, I do remember seeing Matinee. HBO had this, I don't know how HBO is in America or the UK, but in Hungary in the early 90s, it was like they weren't always on, so they would, stop servicing some parts of the day, like at night, or sometimes in the early days they would only work for 8 hours every day at the night time. But I remember Matinee watching it on Sunday morning, and I just I think this is the movie I enjoy the most from this list. And even as the music is very much fun, it goes have you seen Matinee, the John Goodman, Joe Dante? It's about a couple of teenagers growing up in the rocket crisis, and it has a master movie within the movie. And the master movie was actually tracked with a kind of compilation record or something. But Goldsmith did write, besides the score, he wrote all this kind of assorted trailer music, studio logo music for the fictional stuff. And he did a lot of this, 50s, 60s kind of doo-wop instrumentals to be used in jukeboxes. And eventually all of them were replaced by actual songs of the era. But these really cool Goldsmith kind of instrumentals were there just in case one of them couldn't be cleared. And it has just such a strong feel of atmosphere, and that shows you that life goes on even in the darkest of crises, because a lot of things like people panic shopping are very familiar today. But there's still first love, first kiss, first dates, when you don't care about the end of the world, you just want to kiss that girl. And I really, really like that. There's even a sequence in it where John Goodman explores the birth of horror films, and I use that when I talk about genre movies. I show it to my class to imagine how long horror has been going on. So for me, I think if I have to pick a Goldsmith one, which I have nostalgic feelings to, Matinee is the complete package.
I'll have to check that. I'll have to check that out. I went through a little bit of a Goldsmith binge last year, where I watched Logan's Run and Ghost in the Darkness. So I'll have to check out Matinee as well.
Zev's got a signed photograph of Jerry Goldsmith in his studio.
I do. Yeah, that was a gift from the Berkeley film scoring lab managers in my last semester. So I have that looking at me as I write.
Yeah.
So Miriam, we're to your number 4.
I'm gonna. Well, again, like I said, I didn't really have a list, so I'm still mulling a few over in my head. So I'm gonna go. Let's go skip to you.
All right. So this is my Tom Newman. And so it's very easy to fill up this list with just Thomas Newman and Disney.
Absolutely.
But I think this is. I'm gonna go with. This is not my single. I think this is my second favorite Tom Newman score, but it's the one that made me fall in love with his music. So this is his score for the '94 adaptation of Little Women.
Of course. I knew that.
So it was a close call between this and How to Make an American Quilt.
Yeah.
It was a very close call. But I mean, American Quilt I turn to more for contemplation and deep thinking. This Little Women I just turn to more for just comfort. And because Little Women is a much more comforting movie than American Quilt, and it's it just gives you the warm, Christmassy, wintry, feel-good type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I just think his score is just so gorgeously orchestrated that way. There's a lot of really beautiful themes in there, and some, like you said, some very nostalgic-y string moments, mm-hmm. And some personal touches that are just so Tom Newman-esque. And it's a shame that he didn't explore. Well, maybe he did. I mean, but I think. Of the two big ones he did that year, Little Women and Shawshank, he, probably by pressure from the studios, he probably was forced to explore more down that route, and you hear more of Shawshank's descendants in things like Road to Perdition and Revolutionary Road. So, but no, Little Women just gives me all those comforting feels. So
yeah.
much more than the Desplat.
I was going to say, Gergely must be so surprised they haven't mentioned Desplat yet.
I'm sure that's going to be. Maybe it's not nostalgic for you because it's contemporary and not something
Yeah,
from your childhood.
Exactly,
Maybe.
it's all quite recent, so nothing really, yeah, for sure.
All right, Gergely.
Now, I was thinking I would never be able to pick anything from Thomas Newman here. So I was thinking, what if I pick something from another Newman from the family, just something, and Alfred Newman, of course, was a bit, before my age. And even though I have now, put together like 50 isolated scores for all of his full films, it's just something that I'm not nostalgically linked to. And the David Newman scores that I grew up with, I think, is not the stuff that you would like talk about on any kind of. But I did like in the 94, 95, 96, he did all these kind of family comedies, and that was right around the time when I was 12. So for me, something like Jingle All the Way, Matilda, or even Flintstones or Tommy Boy are the stuff I remember actually.
Sure.
Like these are the things I would watch multiple times. Anastasia is actually like Anastasia in the sense that it's a complicated feeling. Like I saw it a few times, and I just thought it's like a bit maybe too adult for an animated film. Like maybe it doesn't have enough stuff for kids in it. But I really felt connected to this mid 90s David Newman stuff, because this was my jam back in the day. Even something like the Flintstones, like I actually like the Flintstones, the live action movie. I knew the Flintstones. I wasn't a big fan of them, but I just loved the visuals, how they put together the real life version of that world. To me, like that would be like amazing, like to live there. And it was nice to hear the opening theme in a kind of souped up, progged up version, I think, about the B-52. So that was something I connect to. It's not something I would like watch nowadays, but this does bring me back to those days. So maybe that David is my Newman to speak for nostalgic value, and maybe some Randy like Pleasantville or stuff like that.
Oh, Pleasant! Oh man, I haven't seen that movie in ages. Jeez.
What are you guys doing in the quarantine? Like, we should write a regiment. Like, this movie today, that movie. Like,
well,
this is the time of self indulgence.
I'm not gonna lie, I have a really hard time motivating myself to watch oldies. I seem to always want to watch things that are made in modern day, where
Well, I have.
That will be my last pick. So you just reminded me of something very important. Thank you very much. So
I feel it's a great responsibility to watch things that are both current and of the past. So a couple of the movies that I watched recently, like I watched Killing of a Sacred Deer this past week, which was intense as hell. I'm a big Yorgo Lanthimos fan, and that one was just off the charts good. He also did The Lobster and The Favorite. But then I also rewatched after having not seen it in like 8 years. I finally saw The Dark Knight again a couple days ago. So. I just try.
Very relaxing score.
It's I do not turn to that score when I need comfort. Jesus. But then yesterday I watched an early Miyazaki, Lupin 3, which was his debut in the 70s. But I think we're getting a little off topic here, so I'm gonna go with, and I almost went with a Joe Hisaishi score for my last pick. I almost did, but then I decided that Spirited Away has enough in it that's just a little discomforting, and discomforting in a way that's just like really intense music, even though it does have some really, really relaxing, comforting things. I went with Alan Silvestri.
Okay.
So
that makes a change.
But it's not a Silvestri that you're gonna think. And I'm dating myself here, and I'm gonna lose a lot of friends and a lot of well, maybe not lose a lot of friends, but I'm gonna get so much ridicule for this. This is 1998's The Parent Trap.
I knew you were gonna say that somehow.
Yeah,
there are some really nice moments in that score. No, I totally get it.
There are, and I'm a sucker for so much of the score, and so much of Silvestri is written the really melodic G major type of stuff, and I cannot not respond to that. And there's some really nice, wind-led passages, and it's just so super melodic. He did a lot of scores in this vein in the 90s, prominently Father of the Bride and a little bit of Forrest Gump here and there. But no, I think of those, Parent Trap is probably my favorite of that particular. It's not my favorite of his overall. That would still be Back to the Future. But I think if I want to put on something of his where I just need comfort, The Parent Trap is just so, I don't know, maybe it's a cynical movie in some ways, but I find it so, it's a score that I just want to give a giant hug to.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to admit here, though, that there is a certain element of wanting to listen to that for comfort is because of nostalgia. Like, it probably takes you straight back to when you were a kid and you saw that movie.
Oh, without question.
Yeah, for sure. See, that's how I feel about most of the scores that I would put on to comfort me. It takes me straight back.
I might have lost Garrett Gay's respect for that choice.
He's very
Hey,
quiet.
it's nice. So it's not, it's completely acceptable for me. I'm not a snob, in fact, I'm the very opposite. So
I've got to ask. I mean, because James Horner has produced some also awesome like scores that I could so put on to relax, or at least parts of his scores. What would you pick, guys? Like from James Horner, if you wanted to just chill.
Well, I'm not as emotionally invested in James Horner as a lot of other people would seem to be. If I were to put on something for comfort from James Horner, I don't know. There's some nice passages from Braveheart here and there. Some of the nice lyrical passages from Braveheart. Maybe I saw Willow a couple of weeks ago, and that was a fun score. Pretty bad movie, but nice score. I don't think I could pinpoint any one particular James Horner score just that I would want to seek out for comfort, honestly. So,
Gabby, do you have any James Horner favorites? Or?
Stuff I like about him is the truly insane dark stuff like Gorky Park. So I don't respond to any of the schmaltz ones. So it's not Gemma Prejudice.
Right.
So I'm not searching for Bobby Fischer, is what I'm saying. So
yeah. Gotcha.
All right. So I've given 5. How many have you guys given?
I'm not counting, Zev. I told you.
I mean, that's she's saying because she only gave 4.
Okay.
Fine. I have another one, but it's very modern, and it's just.
That's okay. That's okay.
As I was scrolling through my iTunes, I realized that this is definitely a score, and it's for TV actually, that I put on if I want to just sit back in my chair, close my eyes, and relax a bit. Is actually from Daniel Pemberton for The Dark Crystal. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it was a show for Netflix, which I could not get into for the life of me. It was these very interesting, weird kind of characters from some other world. But the score is absolutely beautiful. I was listening to something on YouTube. I think Ashton actually had just released a track, Ashton Beckman. And I was listening to it on YouTube, and I don't usually listen to scores from film or TV before I've seen, the movie or show that it's attached to. But it was on autoplay on YouTube, and it just came on, and I did like a double take, like, wow, what is this beautiful music? And there it was. It was the opening theme for Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. I would recommend it. And very quiet.
Well, no, I saw the Dark Crystal, the original Henson movie, a couple of months ago. I think that kind of put me off seeing the TV show for a little while, but I'll try and check it out.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend the TV show. I didn't enjoy it at all, but the music was beautiful. I forgot who wrote the first one. Trevor Jones. Trevor Jones. That's right.
Right. That was my favorite part of the movie, was the score, actually.
He was heavily influenced, I think, by the music of Trevor Jones, but it's really, I would recommend it, particularly the cue, Speak to the Dead. I just adore it. Listen to it on repeat many, many times. And that's
Very well.
me. Those are my semi-relaxing, kind of chilled out choices.
Uh-huh. Okay. So any more from you, Gerge?
Well, I don't know if it's the right time or place, but I just want to take my soapbox a bit because this whole topic is concerned something that's been a lot on my mind recently. And I'm as much as I try to limit myself on Facebook, like try to be more productive. One of the things that keep popping up on my feed is just people watching Star Wars, but like 20 of them. And I can understand watching Star Wars, good for you. The thing I don't know why you post about it, like it's just announcing that I like vanilla ice cream. So I do think that that when we are now stuck with more free time, everybody, even if you are working from home, except for the essential workers whom we thank, I think most of us have a bit of more time to burn. Literally, sometimes. I'm just lit some candles. That's why I'm saying that. So, basically, this is the time to. What I'm using my time to is explore stuff that I never had time to explore, and now is the time. And just watching Star Wars the 20 years time is not that. So, I like to take my little soapbox and encourage everybody to watch stuff. You all had the important thing is that because if you don't watch new stuff and you don't keep up, you lose your right to criticize that. Oh, there's no great scoring done. It's only what was like 30 years ago. No, you just don't see it because we are all stuck in this time loop of watching the stuff we grew up with as children, and there's tons of good stuff out there. Go. Discover, watch.
Exactly.
You're going to come across shit.
Should I tell you a little secret, Gerge?
Tell me.
I've never seen Star Wars, so if I post it on Facebook, will I be discounted from this little speech of yours?
No, I mean this is about everything.
I know. I'm just kidding.
The Star Wars example is very interesting because it's not this thing I think is worth announcing. Like this is. It's not like you're discovering an obscure European art film that is everybody should see. Mm-hmm. You're discovering vanilla ice cream. It's like it's not that I think everybody who wants to see Star Wars has seen it by now. So it's not obscure. And I don't want to harp on this one thing only. It's just this is the time to go explore. Take the directors you like and see something that they did and you haven't seen it yet. Or if same for composers. If you like Thomas Newman, I'm sure nobody has seen Gung Ho. Go. That's my favorite Thomas Newman score. So go. 1987, Ron Howard.
Or Desperately Seeking Susan, or Men Don't Leave, or things like that. Or you could take Gerge's suggestion and check out some obscure European art films. Like I just watched. I just watched The Blue Angel a couple of weeks ago from von Sternberg. So has some old Marlene Dietrich right there. So.
And even not such obscure ones. I mean, take Black Book, for example. It's a foreign language film. It's got a great score by Anne Dudley. Highly recommend. The Lives of Others, German film.
Yes.
Watch these films. They're awesome. Look, I can't necessarily talk. I haven't yet watched anything that's not normally within my wheelhouse in this quarantine. But the truth is, I've just been really busy. I have 3 kids, and they're all home from school all day long. But yeah, I should. I'd like to. I'd like to branch out a bit.
I think on our Princess Mononoke episode, I said something to the degree of watch every single Ingmar Bergman movie you can. Watch Fanny and Alexander. Watch Cries and Whispers, The Seventh Seal, Smiles of a Summer Night. Well, actually, Cries and Whispers is just like one of the most demanding things you'll ever see, and I don't know that I'm necessarily going to get people into that, but hopefully.
Yeah, but even not just to get better informed, like film-wise, even with regards to creating your own music, draw so much different inspiration from watching things that are not the norm, not what you would normally gravitate towards. So, so yeah, and if you have any comments or anything, any recommendations?
Watch it with isolated scores, as I say always. That's the way to learn about this. Just get started in it. And remember that I think that now a bit more intimate dramas will come out. Maybe not in cinemas, but more intimate dramas will be shot because that's the only thing we can shoot now. So more smaller films mean more work for composers. Get on it. Train yourself.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Right. And please let us know your scores that you turn to for comfort in the comment section.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, let us know. So
awesome. It's been a great episode, you guys.
This has been awesome. Thank you, Gergely, and thank you, Miriam.
Much. Thanks, Evan Gergely. And stay safe, be well, and we'll speak soon.
Eat some cookie dough ice cream.
That's not a thing in Hungary. Actually, we don't have that. We have such a talent, the brownie one, but it's not brown enough for me. So it's okay.
Bon appetit.
It's like they just put in like crumbled up biscuits and give me more chocolate. I don't need crumbled biscuits. It's disgusting. It just gets soggy and everything.
You get the main brand though, right? Where you are.
No, we have. Right? I mean, we don't have. I think you can get Ben and Jerry's. I've seen it, but
you get Häagen-Dazs.
We have that too, but nothing beats Carte d'Or for me, which is the one I grew up with. That's why it's also comfort food. But the new, and actually it was made in the city. Elgida, the company that makes a lot of these, had its headquarters in my birth city, so it was like it's even like a bit of pride eating that kind of ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Right.